We'll call the meeting to order for the town council for the night of February 8th. And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Alyssa LaVaughn if she'll lead us in that pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tracy, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Brady.
Here.
Here. Shia. Here.
Here.
Here. Lynn. James Hayes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes from our council meeting last month.
Mayor, can you just open up the public hearing?
I have my glasses. Okay. I beg your pardon. We are. No? This is a public hearing, a joint public hearing between the council and the planning commission. Pat Hedden is representing the planning commission, having to do with the adoption of an ordinance amending chapter 69, licensing of the code of the town of North Beach, to repeal section 6912 for fortune telling and amending chapter 117 zoning, section 117-10, to allow for fortune telling as a permitted use in the commercial, marine, and the W2 zones, and amending section 117-33 definitions to add a definition of fortune telling. Pat, can you acquaint us with the Planning Commission's consideration and action?
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council members. I'm here representing the Planning Commission. As you will recall, you referred us to this issue. It came to the attention of the town that we had an ordinance prohibiting fortune telling within the town, and from dating back to the 1980s, and you asked us to take that up and discuss it. And we did consider that and decided that it really is a use within the town that we should have. And so we recommended that you repeal that and allow the use within the zones of CM and W2, and amend the definition to include the definition of fortune telling. We brought that before you now with an ordinance.
Does the council have any questions of Pat before we open it up to the public? Thank you, Pat. Okay, this is a public hearing. The floor is open now for public comment with respect to this proposed change in the ordinance. Yes, Earl?
I'm just curious, do we have somebody who wants to
Yes.
comment? It's supposed to be
Down at Valerie Watson's place of business. Okay, there being no public comment, the public hearing is closed, and this matter is on the agenda for the council for consideration later in the meeting. Okay, approval of the minutes of the council meeting last month.
I have a correction.
Okay,
The correction being, it says that I made a motion to approve the treasurer's report, made a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
okay, duly noted. Any other items of discussion? With that change, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, approval of the minutes from the work session last week.
I have one correction, I think it's a correction on that. Were we talking, okay, I don't have my copy in front of me, but where it talked about the logo, we said in there, getting a patent. I believe it should just be trademark and copyright of the tagline, not getting a patent on the logo, or getting a trademark.
That's
It
correct.
refers to it as a patent.
I see where you're, I see where
Is there any other discussion? With that change, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the work session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consideration of the appointment of Alyssa Levon as the new town attorney. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was a real nail biter, wasn't it? Alyssa, come up, let me congratulate you.
If you'd like to slide that in there and take a seat up here with me. That's right.
Got it.
Got it? Yeah, let's-
Okay, I see Kate Harrison is with us tonight. Kate, would you step forward, please? Kate is the president of the Twin Beach Players, and we have a presentation to make to Kate. Kate, you have you want to tell us, give us a few minutes about the Twin Beach Players.
Sure. We're going into our 20th season. We're very excited. So we have a very big season planned. Some of our most exciting shows that we've done yet. We're currently in rehearsals for Barefoot in the Park, which is a Neil Simon production. So we're in the very beginning stages. That opens in April. We do also have our Kids Playwriting Festival this year, the 13th annual. So we started submissions for the kids, the county kids. We also have a few workshops that we plan on having to help the kids with the plays and get them started with their playwriting endeavors. And that's really all I have. We have a great season planned. I hope everybody comes. I have some flyers for everyone with our all of our show dates, all of our directors. So we'd love to have everyone.
Kate, it's very impressive how the Twin Beach Players prosper and continue to grow. And I'm always impressed when I go there by the number of young people that seem to have interest in the theater.
Yes.
I never had that, but there's certainly lots of children who do, and it's an outlet for them, and the parents are very supportive of the Twin Beach Players. I think in the Christmas Carol, what do you have, 20 or 30 young people in it?
We had 70 this year. We had 70 children aging and ranged from 6 to 18. And then we had quite a few adults that were also part of the production, but we had a wonderful showing of all the parents, the volunteers that were there to help keep everybody together and everything moving well. So we have a really fantastic volunteer base, and we're so grateful to have such a supportive community and council. So it's very nice to have so many people with us and willing to give their time.
Did I ever tell you that I had a role once upon a time?
I've heard rumors.
That was a non-speaking role. It was the ghost of Christmas Past, I think. That's when it was performed down at Lagoon.
You have to come back here twice for role then.
Am I dating myself? Come on forward. Twin Beach Players was selected as the organization to benefit from our polar bear plunge 1st of January. And Kate, I'm very happy to present you tonight with a check for $2,900 to the Twin Beach Players. investment on a performing arts theater.
Okay,
Now we're pleased to have Nancy Valentine for her annual report on the previous year's financials. Nancy, nice to have you with us this evening.
So I think you all have the copies of the financial statements in front of you.
yes, we do.
Okay. So starting at the beginning, the first is the table of contents, and it just tells what's in the report. The second is the independent auditor's report, and it is showing a clean opinion, which is always a good thing, and no issues noted. The next starts the management discussion and analysis, and basically the MD&A, as it's called, is an overview of the town's financial performance, and it puts it into words in some parts, summarizes some of the financial statements, and kind of tells a story of the town. So the first page includes financial highlights, which on a governmental basis, which is all the funds and all the activities of the town, and which also includes all assets and all liabilities, and all income and all expenses. There was a increase in the net position of $509,000, and the governmental activities increased by $422,000, and the net position of the business activities, which are the water and sewer, increased by $86,000. So that's always a good thing when there's increases. At the close of last year, or the last fiscal year, the ending fund balance was increased by $473,000, and in comparison to the prior year. And the general fund reported an increase in the fund balance of $205,000, bringing the cumulative balance to $1.6 million, or 53.9% of the expenditures at the conclusion of the year. So basically, it also explains that the financial statements are made up of three components. They're the government-wide financial statements, the fund financial statements, and the notes to the financial statement. So going through those, I guess, starting with the MD&A and then going into the financial statements later. In the governmental-wide financial statements, the town's assets and liabilities increased, showing a positive net position for the town, which shows that the town is improving. On the next page, it talks about the statement of activities, and the statement of activities shows how the town's position has changed during the current year, just the current year change. And then the fund financial statements are the governmental and the proprietary statements, and the governmental statements include the general fund, the capital projects fund, and the economic development fund, whereas the proprietary statements include the water and sewer funds. The governmental funds financial statements shows a modified accrual basis, which is a short-term view of operations, and there's a reconciliation which reconciles it to the governmental-wide. And basically what that means is that any assets that can be collected, so basically it's the taxes, the Carroll County real estate taxes, any that are collected within the first 60 days after year end are included in, but the other ones are deferred. And do not show in the income, the revenue. So you're picking up last year's deferred and then increasing this year, or changing it by this year's deferred. So when we get to those pages, I'll kind of tell you what the reconciliation is, all the things that are involved. Proprietary funds, they're accounted for on a full accrual basis, just as a business would be, so there's no reconciliations or anything, they're the same for both. And then the notes to the financial statement, which explain a lot of things in the financial statements. It's a kind of narrative on some things. On the next page, page 5, required supplementary information. There are some requirements for some pension descriptions and disclosures that are necessary. The governmental-wide financial analysis. Basically, this is showing summarized statements of financial information presented in the statements. So we'll talk about that more. when we get to the statements. The next page shows the revenue and the program revenues, the general revenues, and the expenses, which is also a summary of what's shown in the statement in the following. The next page is kind of just some wording on what happened in those funds, which I'll go in more detail in this actual statements. So the next page, 8, shows the revenues and other financing sources this year and last year, and the dollar change and the percent change. So the largest change was, the largest change was in the state shared revenues, which the majority of that was the gambling distribution that the town receives. The next is the general fund expenditures and other financing uses compared this year, last year. And there's the biggest change in there was the transfers out, which is transfers out of the general fund for the capital projects. The money generally comes into the debt service comes into the general fund and then is transferred out for the capital projects expenditures. And then page 9, it talks about the general fund budget information and the budget compared to the actual, and there is a statement that shows each line item on those. And then the capital assets and debt administration, it talks about the increase in the capital assets for the current fiscal year was $511,000, which is a factor of the new improvements that were made, less any depreciation on existing assets. And then the debt administration is that there was outstanding bonds and notes of $7.5 million in both the governmental and business type activities, and those are listed in the notes to the financial statement as a detail of what those are. The increase in the town's outstanding notes and bonds was $480,000, 6.7%, and they issued bonds and $1 million, million to be used for capital expenditures, and then they also repaid some debt, retired some debt. And economic factors in next year's budget and rates is basically the property tax rate was kept at the same. And there was a moderate increase in the assessable base, which was attributable to construction of townhouses in San Francisco. And the property tax revenue makes up approximately 51.4% of the general fund budgeted revenues and other financing sources. Fees for trash, water, and sewer experienced no changes in rates for the 2017-2018 budget. And then it's other contact the town if needed. So then it goes into the government-wide financial statements. The statement of net position is, like I said, it includes all of the assets and liabilities of the town and all activities of the town. So what this shows is that there's 14.4% of the assets are cash and 82% are invested in capital assets. 90% of the liabilities is debt, which is expected. So there's positive net position on both the government activities and the business activities. And it shows last year compared to last year in a summary. The next statement on page 12 is the statement of activities. And basically this is all revenue and expenses of the town, and it's shown by function. The governmental activities for the general government, community development, public works, public safety, and interest. And with the expenses, 34% of the expenses are for the general government, 20% for community development, 22% for public works, and 22% for public safety. 52% of the governmental activities are financed by taxes, and the rest are financed by those who benefit directly from the services. So there was an increase of $422,000 in the governmental activities and $86,000 in the business type activities, for the year. The next page is the balance sheet for the governmental funds, and this is the short-term view that I was talking about, and it does not include capital assets, such as the town hall, equipment, et cetera, or long-term debt. So it's a short-term picture of the town. And then the next page is the reconciliation between the two statements, the governmental funds balance sheet and the net position of governmental activities. And you can see there's, starts with the governmental fund balance and then adds in the capital assets that are used by the governmental, but are not sure, that are long-term. And then deferred in for outflows of resources is pension items, the long-term pension items. Long-term liabilities that are not due and payable in the current period, which is long-term debt, and then the deferred revenues of the property or the real estate taxes that are not paid or not received in the 2 months following, so they are deferred for the next year, so they can be used for paying those expenditures. The next page on 15 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the governmental funds. So this includes as income proceeds from long-term debt, and also shows as expenses amounts paid for capital items and principal and interest on long-term debt. So that's why it's a little bit different than the other. The net change in fund balances for the general fund was $205,000. Capital projects fund was $268,000 and $70,000 in the economic development. The next page shows the reconciliation of the governmental to the net position of governmental activities, which shows the capital outlay expenditures and then taking off the depreciation, which would be shown. So that's the change, the difference between those two. And the issuance of long-term debt, less the repayment of long-term debt that was done during the year. And then the property taxes and refuse fees. The first is what was collected during the year from the prior year, and the second is what was not collected in the 60 days following. And then the balance is the change in pension liability, and that's a long-term item also. So the net of the beginning and out, that ending is $51,000, which is actually pretty minimal. So the next page shows the statement of net position for proprietary funds, which are the water and sewer funds. And these are full accrual, which includes all assets and liabilities. And on the water fund, you'll see that there's a net deficit investment in capital assets, which means that the debt is higher than the capital assets for the water fund. But the sewer fund shows a $2 million investment, so that's good. The next page is the revenues, expenses, and changes in net position of the proprietary funds, which, once again, it's a full accrual, so all income and all expenses are shown. And there's a change of net position in the water fund of $61,000 deficit and $147,000 in the sewer fund. The next page is the statement of cash flows, which shows the cash that came in and the cash that went out for the water and sewer funds. And then, where the money came from and where it was spent. So the water fund showed a decrease in cash of $36,000 for the year, and the sewer fund showed an increase of $52,000 for the year. Then we get into the notes to the financial statement. The first is a summary of significant accounting policies. They're all normal for a governmental entity. The reporting entity, the basis of presentation, which is all the statements that we just went through. Revenue recognition, the modified accrual basis, and then the accrual basis are explained in more detail there. Page 22, it shows the proprietary funds and how they are accounted for on a business statement, just like a business would be. Next is the cash and cash equivalents and investments, and basically any idle funds go into an investment account, an investment pool, and so where they can earn interest or earn earnings on them. And that is authorized for the town to invest in U.S. Treasury bills, China share accounts, and institutions insured by the FDIC, and certificates of deposit when they are secured by collateral.
and those are all requirements of the state. Interfund receivables and payables, it's activities between the funds, the capital projects and the general fund are the major ones that are borrowing and lending between them. The next is the property tax receivable, which just goes and outlines the tax schedule, when the bills came out and when they're assessable, et cetera. On the next page is the accounts receivable and how they're accounted for. Any unearned revenues is any assets that are recognized before revenue criteria has been met. Prepaid items is prepaying items that are, the benefit is not being used until later. Capital assets, it goes to describe what is capitalized and then the, how long the cost is recovered through depreciation. Impairment of long-lived assets, basically the assets of the town, the capital assets of the town are looked at to see if there's any impairment of them that would have to be written off, but there were no impairment losses in the year. And the next page goes into compensated absences, long-term obligations, fund equity, and breaks the fund equity into the different categories: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And it's basically showing what the criteria are for those. The next page, 25, shows the implementation of new accounting procedures, and these are pretty much all related to retirement benefits and disclosures on them, and the way they're accounted for. So that's all through the state retirement system. And then new accounting pronouncements which will affect, which is the same thing, they're pretty much all related to the pension issues. On page 27, budgetary information, there is excess of expenditures over appropriations, and we will get to the budget statement later. And basically, they're all pretty close. Transfers out they were not budgeted as such in the general fund, so they show as a difference between the budget and actual. The debt service principal on long-term debt was higher than what the budget was because 2 loans were paid off at the end of the year, which affected that. Page 28 shows the amounts due from other governmental entities, amounts owed to the town, what they're for. Internal receivables payables is between the capital fund and general fund, which this one is also the transfers were between the two. The next page, 29, shows the capital assets, and it's basically a roll forward of the capital assets. So during your year, the increases were 1.44, and the decreases 1,091,091, which part of that is the depreciation of 735. It's also the, as capital projects are completed, they go from construction progress to the actual capital assets being depreciated. So that's why that number's higher than what you would expect. And then business type activities, same thing. It shows the roll forward of those for the year. And then the next page shows the depreciation and how it was charged to the different programs and functions, and the water and sewer, and the outstanding construction progress that were at the end of the year had not been completed yet. Then we go into the roll forward of the long-term debt, and the new debt is shown as the increases, decreases are shown as payoffs, either the regular monthly payments or the payoffs on any other or accelerated payoffs. The next page, 31, shows a detail of each of the bonds and loans of the town. First is the governmental activities. At the bottom, it has the fund maturity, the future maturity by year, and then the state notes and bonds payable for the water and sewer funds, and their loan repayments, and the disclosure of the line of credit that exists. The next, actually 3 pages is the required employment retirement disclosures. These are all required by GAAP, and they just kind of give details of how things are calculated for the pension, et cetera. So moving on to page 35, the interjurisdictional agreements, which is the Chesapeake wastewater treatment plant, and what the agreement is, and the construction agreement on the facility expansion. The next page shows the coverage for the insurance, basically disclosing what the risk management policy is, or what the risk management coverage is. The last disclosure or note is the subsequent events, and it basically is showing that there were no items after the date of the year end, but by the issuance of the financial statement that required disclosure. The required supplementary information. The first is the budget comparison for the general fund, and the general fund is the only one that's required to have the budget comparison. So it shows the original budget, the final budget, and the actual, and the variance with the final budget, negative or positive, which is what was summarized in the notes to the financial statement. And then is the pension disclosures that I talked about. It's the portion of the net pension liability of the state and our position. And then the pension contributions for the year. And then the last report is the report on internal control, and it basically says that the auditors evaluated internal control to determine what audit procedures they needed to follow, and there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted in that evaluation. And that's.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, Nancy, are there any areas of concern?
No, that's what I said, with the town's position is improving, and with all the positives, it's looking good.
Have we got a clean report?
Yes, and a clean report, that's what I said.
Any questions from the council? Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for staying away.
Most of those numbers probably aren't as big as some of the numbers you see with the other towns, but we do the best we can.
It looks like you're doing
Okay, Tom, your report, please. Sergeant Phelps.
For January 2018, the sheriff's office handled 105 calls for service in North Beach. It's up from 83 in December. And January 17, we handled 105 calls. The call breakdown, 63 were self-initiated, 42 received by the means. Of those, we handled one theft of cash run like vehicle, and one non-fatal heroin overdose, and one DUI.
It's pretty quiet.
Yes, it's cold.
Your calls are down, almost 50% from a year ago.
Yes,
You attribute that primarily to the weather.
very, very cold.
Yeah.
Did you look at the weather this time last year? Was it really that much
I
colder?
could probably research that.
I know.
I don't think, the stretch of cold too.
Did the council have any questions of Sergeant Phelps?
I have two. One is Ricky's report. Is there anything on that, or Detective Press's?
I will get that.
Just wondering, is there anything outstanding right now? I can't remember what was open, what's been closed.
He is
what's
working
solved.
a burglary right now. I know the fact he's working a burglary that occurred on David Lane, but it was before he also a couple of houses, big houses on the beach. I know he's currently working on that one. I will get him started. Yes,
Because I know one of his primary goals was to work between the two towns, and I haven't heard anything. The other part is, a lot of you might have already seen the new sign up by the fire department with the heroin overdose and fatalities. When you see 20714, that's a complete zip code. That's just not town property. Same with 20732. But that's just really to bring the awareness of the epidemic that we're going through in our country. So I know Deputy Phelps was at the event the other day, and we had a great turnout. Really did.
That was actually the largest turnout we've had at
Yes.
this, so. This is very good information. The Joey Windsor, who's in charge of that for the county, is actually going to start separating. He's going to do not only the mailing address of North and Chesapeake, but also the town limits, and his reports also is for the town. I just do the town limits in these, but I think with his stats in mind, MSP very rarely handles a call in the town.
Right.
But if they do, they don't show my stats because I don't have access to the record. So I'm gonna, he actually added me to his list to make sure our numbers compare, so I'll be good enough.
I knew the last ones were off something, it'd be nice to,
Yeah,
they're all important, but
Yep.
just to know.
yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, you weren't here last month, but thank you. Last month was the first full year we had the month and year breakdown, so it's nice to see how that total year summed up. I know that was tracking on your side, so thank you for that. So I found it delightful to see.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tom. Joanne?
Treasurer's report for the month of December. The beginning balance was $547,000, total debits was $201,000, and total credits was $529,000. The ending balance was $219,000 in general fund checking. Investments in MLGIP was $3,714,000. MLGIP sewer capital was $34,000, and water capital was $7,000. Total cash available to the town of North Beach for this period was $3,975,000. Last year for the same period, it was $3,795,000. That's close, isn't it? Oh, wow, we're doing good, we're right on target. Hotel tax revenue for this period was $561.92, and for last year, the same period was $794.09. And no state of Maryland business license revenue to report for last year or this year.
Okay, council, you see the receipts and disbursements over 7,500. Any questions of Joanne?
I have one, Joanne, down at the, in the middle to the crosswalks. Was that, I was gonna ask Donnie about that. Was that released? Remember, we were holding something.
We're holding,
We're still holding in addition to that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was released. All right.
I think it's close to 30 or 29 somewhere.
Probably about 30,000. We're holding enough to cover the weight of border strips.
Because they're chipping away.
They're steady shipping away, so.
All right.
Also, a little bit more retained. I don't think enough to cover that, but 10% retained on top of that.
All right. Thank you.
We worked the job with them, we supposed to come back. Yeah, probably around April when the weather gets better, then address all the issues at one time.
Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Joanne, thank you for that report, and thank you for the great job you do all year long in order to get us financials such as we have for FY17.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Donnie?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna run through here kind of quick and make it, and then we've got the state of town come up, so if you have any questions, please follow up with us. First item I have here is continue work on design and obtain budget estimates for the upgrade of the town's well house and water system. We do have some rough numbers in, but I don't really want to bring them out to get a little bit better design. We have been working on the grant we put in to address maybe some of the costs, or possible, man. We're not real positive that we'll get that, but we feel like the state has pretty much served its lifetime, so we would like the council to consider going ahead with the project. So, and I will have rough numbers for you at the next meeting. Second thing, continue to work on design and proposed pavilion for the boardwalk located just south of the Welcome Center. We need to get construction drawings to really get, once we get the size determined, the work session we talked about maybe expanding that to make it more qualitative. But once we get the size, then we can get a construction drawing to get a better estimate of the cost of the project. We're looking you know, hope to complete that by Memorial Day. I think council is pretty much all saying, and I think it would be a great project to do. We just need to decide.
So where do we go from here? You're gonna lay it out?
I'm gonna lay out tomorrow, that's Friday, it's about 10 or 15 degrees. Again,
Yeah.
council people will be out in the sense of the weather having been good. Me and Richard talked, we're gonna put cones, but I think some people moving their chickens or whatever. So we're just gonna tape it out, and also I'm gonna try to tape out where the posts are gonna be, so you can see exactly where the columns are gonna be, and then the outline on the outside of it. So, you know, we'll take some tape out there tomorrow, and tape it out so the council, and then we'll stay with it.
Yeah, council members,
No, no,
they're just having the time to go out and take a look at it, so you'll have an opinion on it.
It's kind of important to get that done maybe, you know, soon, so then we go back to Tom Ryan and get the size and then get those construction on. I don't think it'll probably take a long time, but it'd be nice to get that in there moving, so we can be ready for more of that. Number 3, yeah, we had problems up Greenwood Avenue. We had a older building there, had a leaking roof, it caused some damage to the equipment on the interior. We looked at a couple options, but then we decided to go ahead and just throw a little flat roof, metal roof on there. We did that this past month, and that did save a lot of equipment. Some of that equipment was in there was $3,500, $12,000 a piece. We did have a flow meter. They got ruined, just some water dripping in. It was flat concrete roof. The seams right in the center, all the water ran right through the center. Couldn't have hit the water meter any better than what it did. Ruined that. We put a new roof on there, which was good, and they just like Greenwood Avenue there. It made a nice addition to the area there. Continue to work on the Shirt Shack building. We started work finishing the interior. We got the electric running there. We did order the counter door for the front and canopy for the front. We're going to reuse the one that was on the Welcome Center, which we need a new cover for not. We did save the frame, also we can reuse the existing one. We worked with staff on and also real helpful with this. We went and did a layout of the interior, looking at some cabinets and shelving and other things for the inside there. Also, I'd like to have that done ready to open for the Memorial Day weekend. We had a pretty good discussion at the work session about the operation of the door proceeding on the building. I think somebody will use it. Shortness report period, we had a few days with cold enough weather, a little bit of snow that required monitoring the roads and salting the roads some mornings with the rain and the cold temperatures. We had a little trouble with one of the salt spreaders, so during the cold weather, I had the guys, we went ahead and rebuilt 2 of the tasks that actually spread the salt. We took them all apart just from wearing and tear normal. That salt spread basically do a beating with the salt. So we went ahead and rebuilt them in-house this month. We addressed several sewer backup calls. This time of year, we do get more sewer calls. Seemed like blowing the pipes as far as up from the cold temperatures and extremely cold this year, so we had one in a couple of people's houses in the room here. So we had somewhere in the main line, somewhere on the property owner side, somewhere on my side. DPW jetted all the problems and took care of them in-house. And then on the pump on the beach, it's been installed, I was trying to think, it's probably been about 5 years up there. But it also has a level transducer that's installed in a pretty good environment. That failed this month. So we went ahead and reinstalled a new double device in-house and performed routine maintenance on the pump. It's pretty dry, but I think here in the next couple of weeks. We got that back up, got that ready to good. Other than that, it was pretty chilly, also it was a good day. I'll do it.
Okay, council, have any questions of Johnny?
Don, you talked about a flow meter before coming back into the town. What's the status of that?
Me and Paul actually talked about it, staff meeting, and we're going to go ahead and put that in capital. And look at what we're really fast as we can get for that situation, we're going to put that in the budget, we feel on the those right there. As soon as we get the budget through. Then this is coming out, it's just a matter of when, because everybody's going to be questioning, rates are more up every month, so we got to account for everything. So it'll help us out on the accounting, but it also helps out them need for the order appropriation permit. That's going to expire in September, so it's a file of the permit. It's good to have all these numbers to track, like how much water you actually use, so you can ask for an increase or any kind of track that you use it with something that's going on. So we talked about, like I said, we're going to put that in our capital.
And the last thing is Paul has on his, and he's going to talk about the sidewalk plan, or are you coordinating that with the water and sewer plant at the same time?
Yeah, we talked about that in staff meeting a little bit, and it's kind of like a proposed plan of where we thought sidewalks should be more important. And we narrowed it down, Paul sent me an email today, up in July.
Just want to make sure we coordinate that.
Stormwater, management has.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit in staff meeting the other day that they're including, streets again, some of their crack ups, for the street hydrant, definitely as well.
Thank you.
We have one thing, I do leave off the roadside in there. We also been working on yours, talking about water meters and new meters in. We are working on a plan to kind of phase those in. That's a pretty expensive project. We looked at replacing all the meters in town. It might be up to $750,000, possibly more. If we went in and replaced every meter and every meter setter and the whole work. So we're kind of looking at just getting meters up to speed where we're reading the right readings and everything. We did put in for a grant for that. And then as houses come on like this street in Dayton, everybody who builds new houses tries to put sprinklers, so we're kind of trying to phase in a way. You know, there'll definitely be new meters installed and new meter pits and a whole new system when we do that. And kind of, phase in, figure out, put it in the budget, but plan a way to do that, economically. So.
It probably will tie right into the new sidewalks.
And the new sidewalks is part of that, and everything. So
Right there in the sidewalks.
Right. Like when we do a section, we might do that, you might say like, well, let's do 10 houses while we're doing that. So it won't be such a big expense all at one time. But we did put in for a grant for that, so we're hoping
I hope that.
2 grants, right, for another thing.
It's a loan forgiveness.
Right.
If we qualify for a grant portion, they'll forgive part of it, but part of it may be a loan. So we're waiting again.
Thank you.
Paul, your report?
So I just want to touch on a couple things we've done, and a lot of them repeat. The state highway, we're trying to get them down here for next month, back up to April, so it goes more of a slideshow update of the 261 upgrade road. Haven't heard much from them lately on that, so stay tuned on that. We're also going back in for grant opportunities for the boardwalk up north, which we didn't get last time, but we're going to ramp that up. There's like 2 different applications or potentials that we can go after for grant money. So one's design, one's construction. So the beach dredge, so we got all the permits now in hand, and we're out to bid, coming back to you next month with bids for your consideration. Let's see here.
All that'll give us time for the work to be done
Correct.
prior to
Yeah.
the warm weather
Yeah.
season.
Not a long project, once it get going. So really, I guess how it's gonna proceed is, they're gonna peel the sand back, stockpile it, take as much dredge material as they can, place it, push the sand back over. Hopefully that takes care of everything or anything. Based on 2 year or a year and a half ago survey, it will, but a year and a half's not a lot, so if there's anything left, they'll haul it out. That's kind of how we're proceeding. Anyway, I got all the permits, that's the biggest project we'll haul them done. Don talked about the water meter pit replacement, and I just wanted to add, I told him, the new code, you gotta put fire sprinklers in your house. You never have to do that in Calvert. I'm used to it everywhere else, but here, these houses don't burn down. So you're gonna go to a 1-inch line instead of a 3/4-inch line, which is gonna change the meter in your pit. So Donnie's gonna have to get prepared for that, and it's gonna start happening. But you also got 190 pits that can't get read, so those need to get, and every year getting further and further behind. So somehow, gotta ramp that up. Library site, we continue, the mayor's pushing hard on it, the Chesapeake Avenue fifth location. We're looking at additional, or opportunities for parking around there, different places that we can gain parking, even if the library doesn't come, somebody's going to come. Working on that, and got some buttons of the master plan for the sidewalk, so we'll get on next month.
Thank you.
Any
Can I ask
questions?
Quick question, Jim.
2 quick ones. For the state highway, would they'd be coming to
Here.
council meeting, right?
That's what I-
In either March or April, not a work session.
That's something I'm
Okay.
asking about.
Okay, perfect. And then on Atlantic and Ninth, do we have a grant application currently
We
in
do.
for that?
Mhm.
When do people hear about that?
Usually those are early summer, spring.
When we get notification?
Well, we turn one.
That's what I mean, we're waiting to hear if we got it, right?
Yeah, we'll hear, generally you hear around the June timeframe. Yeah.
On the other hand, we don't get it this time, we can continue to reapply. They're not talking about construction until 2020.
Correct.
No, I was talking about the,
For both.
yeah, for both. I was talking about the pump issue on.
Now, we did have Tom, you did bring it up, we had an opportunity in the winter, the tides go out.
Right.
You know, and we had an opportunity, one, not only is the mayor sent me some great pictures of the beach, and it's just completely burned. Wow. But also the pipe outfall. I mean, that pipe is 3/4 full every night.
Of sand.
Yeah, we had like
debris.
probably the lowest tide ever, not to ever fall, but we got a real good picture and, you know, we did all that work with Dresden, and we got the four main pipe, but we took a picture right at 7th Street there, and that pipe's 3/4 full, and it's like the whole area, it's not just, you couldn't dredge out enough to clear that, because that whole area is full of that much sand. So that area there is gonna be tough.
At 7th or 9th?
7th. 9th was, half, 7th was worse. You know, we've been talking about in the past, like trying to come up with something 7th Street for stormwater control.
Right.
But it's just so much sand and so much blocking that place to let it out. It's almost gonna have to be a pump station, something. There's a level of that, bigger here, the sand, silt came up so high, it's kind of blocking the whole thing.
So that's like, yeah, that could be a huge part of the issue, is the fact that it's
Big
just.
part of the issue. You're not getting, all your volume is lost, but it's just the whole day, it's that.
When I did in Chesapeake Beach, when they raised the road right at the crossing at the wastewater treatment plant at Seagate, we put a pump station in, somewhat elaborate, but a pump station in there, I don't know if you know that, but there's an outfall, and instead of running that grade to grade, I lifted the outfall up above the water, so when it's pumping, there's nothing gonna obstruct that. And I'm thinking that's kind of, I'm not really that high, but something like that. That way, you're not gonna be fighting tides, and you're not gonna be fighting sand.
So are you guys working on looking at a solution for 7th as well?
Yeah, and then 9th Street, we've been, the berm being in place, and knock on wood, it's gonna dry. Since September, we really hadn't had any rain. But with the berm being in place, we haven't had that pump station at a high level since the project was completed. So they did, that's a lot of work coming over the berm, coming around, hitting 9th Street to the pump station. That was causing a lot of problems with that station. I still think when, State Highway does, that might be part of their project. We're not even up for long, or maybe we can get them to play into part of that design too.
I want to get it.
Yeah, and take, that's part of the state road raising project, because they're gonna have to do something with that stormwater, talking about the sheet metal, we might be able to have influence when we upgrade that pump station as part of the road design. At least put it in consideration. And that's pump station, like I say, it's been dry, for about 5, 7 weeks of time rain. But that station hasn't went to high level, hadn't had any issues since the burn.
Okay, thank you all. Rick, your report, please.
Yeah, we finally got most of the reporting done that we wanted with the software, so what you get now is going to be a little bit cleaner to look at, kind of give you a little more definitive as to what takes place. Last month was a little bit slower, like Diane was saying, with the cold weather. Almost everything that took place was between vehicles and trash and rubbish. You guys should have another, additional information on it. We didn't for that. I'll start sending those out. But that sheet has personal homeowner information that we don't want to put out to the public, but maybe you guys, if you have any questions, give you specifics, so if you saw something in town, you'll see that that was what was addressed with one of these numbers here. That, and we've got a lot of zoning stuff going on, past month, probably about, I think we have 12 or 13 active projects going on, one of which Dawn mentioned at the end of her statement.
I'll do that. Any questions of Rick? Thank you, Rick. Dawn?
My apologies, I was extremely late.
conference calls regarding the new text notification system. I've got a checklist to complete prior to a training session that they call Teach Back. They want us to kind of get familiar with it, and then they'll do another training session, and then after that, Civic Ready will be in their final phase of production. So I would say probably maybe 4 weeks or so for that. Design the riders, which are the smaller signs that attach to the municipal parking sign on Chesapeake Avenue where the electric vehicle charging station is. I think tomorrow they will be installed, and they have the address to that parking lot and also the wording electric vehicle charging. So that's more visible. Oh, and Joanne uploaded a video to the station itself. I continued some layout for the interior of the Search Act, researched some suppliers, and met with the cabinet makers of Downing. I helped Richard with his waterfront applications. It's time of year for him to start seeking out seasonal staff. So we have updated all of his applications and an employment flyer that he is distributing. I worked with the mayor and Councilwoman Shiado on the responses to the Board of Library Trustees, that whole document, and prepared that and delivered that. Stacy and I attended the What's Up Weddings Bridal Expo at the end of January. We networked and displayed and handed out our information about having a wedding during North Beach. Created signs. So we're taking all the fun out of this. You know, every kid likes to feed the ducks, but there's a need for signage at the waterfront because our ducks are being fed too much, I guess, and you know, it causes them to be sick, malnutrition in the ducks. It also makes them not afraid of people, so they bother the people on the beach, and you know, so they become a nuisance. So we created the signs to discourage people from feeding the ducks. Then I began preparing the State of the Town for 2017, and I helped with preparing the Cows Park presentation that you guys saw last.
What do you do in your free time? You do a wonderful job.
Thanks.
Richard, we don't have you on the agenda for a report, but is there anything that you'd like to share with the council that you're doing?
I'm just here to answer any questions you might have for the this RFP for Cows Park. I have some picture references for you that aren't on the screen, but looks like we're ready to go.
We'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
All right, do you have Veronica's report? I see Veronica's not here this evening. Okay, time for public comment. Deborah?
I have two things. One, representing the Economic Development Committee, just an update on the title that we made. So I have a sample. There's going to be a little bit of modification to it, but basically like this. And we just finalized some paperwork that we got to talk to Jen next for the funding. So we're good to go. So you just pass it around. And
so every month is going to have a
different, yeah, like July will probably have a flag, in the fall have a pumpkin, something that's related to that month. And for those of you in the audience, we the Economic Development Committee and the Garden Club partnered. We do the yard of the month every month and put a thing in the yard, but this is to memorialize it. So we do it May to October. So each homeowner will get a plaque, and we're grandfathering in since we started it 2 years ago. So they'll get a plaque that they can display however they want. So just wanted to update you on that. And then as my Garden Club hat, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are going to have a hustler again. Sorry. So it's Sunday, June 3rd from 1 to 5. So we've really been going gung-ho with that, and you'll see more. We'll reach out to you as far as ads. We have our ads committee that's been working really hard, and houses on it. This year, since we haven't had it for a while, we're going to keep it in town. We're still going to have a shuttle for people with mobile issues that might not be able to walk to the houses, but a lot of the houses are clustered together. So very walkable. And we're also, what's different is we have some that are just strictly gardens, and we're hoping that the Sunrise Garden can be on it this year as a stop. But we have some homes that have really nice gardens, and they're proud of those, and they want to show that, not have people in the houses, which I love, because it's called a house and garden tour. So that's a little bit different this year too, but I'll keep you updated on that, and more
This
to
would be
come.
nice, so the tiles be ready by then?
Oh, yeah.
So that
Definitely.
people can have those on their
Yes.
house to kind of
Right.
show on the tour.
Right, right.
And where can people find more information right now about the House and Garden Tour?
We
Do
will
you have
get that
something
out. I was going to talk to Dawn about that as far as getting stuff on our website, marketing it. And we are marketing it ourselves, are going to start marketing it ourselves in some local publications and such, since we haven't had it yet. We also have a list of previous attendees that we'll send out as first-class mail, so we know if they're not there anymore. We'll get that feedback. But to previous attendees so they'll just know that we're doing it again. But since there's been like a 3-year break, we know that we're going to have to just get, more forwardly out there to get exposure. Because it's not like, oh yeah, it's that time of year again, we'll go, and we haven't had it.
Right. And I know you guys are getting creative too, with the businesses maybe having some coupons
Yes,
in the bags, and so being really thoughtful and
Right.
making this a really nice event.
Right, we're going to give out tote bags to the first 300 ticket purchases. And we've got a couple of corporate sponsors on there, and then our logo.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's good news to hear. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll move to business item 1, a decision from the council whether to issue an RFP for the upgrade to the Palace Park. Richard, do you have something you want to show us tonight?
No,
Pretty much what you showed during the work session.
yes, and the council added 4 components. I've given them some picture references so we can move forward.
The council have any questions? And if not, I need a motion to issue an RFP for those improvements which you saw last week. There's a second. More discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for pulling this together so quickly.
You're welcome.
Well, I think it was important to note that you said too, it's, all of these additions were still in budget.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. The ordinance which was introduced, maybe 2 months ago, that we had a public hearing on earlier, ordinance -17-14. Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approve this ordinance?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Resolution 18-01, which is an amendment to our fee schedule, reflecting a change in our charge for the electric charging station. Paul, can you just give us a minute or two synopsis of why we're making this change?
Sure. So we originally set this up back in, months back, where we had a new charging station installed, electric vehicle charging station installed, and we set a fee, and I don't think we totally understood the fee we were actually setting at that point. Since that time, we've got a little more educated on what the fees people charge in the surrounding area. So basically, we're going to reduce the fee that we have set up currently for the charging station. Right now, it's set to have, I think it's 25 cents per kilowatt hour, plus an additional $1.65 per hour you're parked in the spot, which comes out quite high for the cost of charging. So what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the $1.65 and bring it down to just the 25 cents per kilowatt hour. The town will still make money because the town's only charged, I think, 4 cents per kilowatt hour for that, and then Charge Point charges an additional 10%, so additional 2 or 3 cents on top of that. So we still have plenty of margin there to at least break even if nothing else.
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, appreciate that. That previous figure wasn't just an arbitrary number, one that the vendor had suggested to us. But anyway, that's why we're reducing it. There'd be no parking fee, basically. So do I have, this is by resolution. So do I have a motion to approve this resolution to amend the fee schedule? Second. Discussion?
Are we going to revisit this for other fees this year, or is
So far, that's it. We haven't decided to change any fees yet, but, again, you got to look at the water and sewer.
budget year?
Coming up,
That's why I
so
was
it may
asking.
change, but we wanted to get this changed in effect.
Yeah, as soon as possible. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The resolution is agreed to. Thank you, Paul. Okay, now we're at the state of the town portion of the agenda. Nikki, can we dim the lights a little? For those who may be attending this for the first time, this is simply a review of the town activities for the year 2017. And I'd like to thank Dawn Richardson in particular for providing us with the photographs that you'll see here tonight. Okay, let's start with the capital projects. Joanne? All right, you see, of course, the one that occupied most of our time, attention, and resources, that was the Chesapeake Avenue streetscape. There's some of the major components of that streetscape. The streets itself, the front portion of the Callis Park, which was actually part of the streetscape, and it's what you agreed to tonight is the renovation of the park further west in the recreation area. All right. And then I guess that's a new fence around the pump station here, right, John?
Yes, sir.
That fence, yeah. Okay, also something that has taken a little bit of our time and resources, the berm in the 9th and Atlantic area, finally finished. As well as the drainage. You see that drain there? That when we created the berm, of course, there are unintended consequences. So the rainwater can't get into that pond any longer. So we had to engineer a way to effectively drain the landward water as best we could. That's what that represents, but that project is now completed. We'll have to see how well that works. So we feel pretty confident that the berm has been very effective already. We'll have to see how rainstorms we get this spring, how that system works. Okay. The Callis Park renovation, which you just agreed to issue a RFP for, we hope to get that done before the warm weather season. Can we get we should be able to make that award next month, right?
Yeah.
For the Callis Park. Make it, be sure to put that on the agenda so they get started on that. The shirt shack, which you see there, that's done entirely by our Department of Public Works crew. Okay, let's go on to some recognitions that we've received. Another important effort that we undertook was participation in the America in Bloom project. Flower beds along with the pots that were placed around town in front of the businesses. I thought North Beach looked as beautiful as it ever has this past spring and summer. And we look forward to that again, working with Green Street Gardens.
we were recognized, by the American in Bloom organization for the tremendous efforts we had made as a first-time participant. The Welcome Center was renamed for Sally Donaldson last spring. You all remember that. Richard's mother, who's spent so many hours right there at the Welcome Center. She became a fixture for years. Very appropriate to have that name for Sally. And that, yes, that's Sally's family, by the way. There's the, I call it a piece of, it's a sculpture serving as a gate. Look at that beautiful gate for which the town received grants from both the Calvert County Arts Council and the Maryland State Arts Council. And we also dedicated a sign there to our first park ranger, Lewis Clackett. You all remember that it was a rainy day. We dedicated both the Sally Donaldson Center and the Lewis Clackett Memorial Plaque. And we miss Lewis. Okay, next. Okay, another effort that required a lot of participation from our staff was earning the Sustainable Maryland certification, which we did, and there's some council members and staff and some committee members of the Environmental Committee who were primarily responsible for pulling it all together, because, boy, did it take a lot of paperwork. Didn't it, Jane?
Oh, my God.
That's not an easy thing to earn that designation.
Jeff's in the audience, he helped with that.
Yes, he did. I'm sure Deborah did too. Okay, you see the electric vehicle charging station. Our code enforcement officer actually does his job now in a hybrid vehicle. Fresh coat of paint for a water tower with the updated logo on it. Okay, next, let's see what some of our public works crew have been doing. You all remember we had to repair the seawall down there. Remember at 7th and Atlantic? You all did a great job on that, by the way. And repainted that whole wall. As I indicated, they're doing all the work on the construction of the shirt shack. And they did a lot of the work there with that new fence in front of the Callis Park. As a matter of fact, you did that whole fence, didn't you, Don?
Yeah, we built the wall, got another contract from the black, and that's what we did the hardscape portion.
And you can see a photograph there of the portion of Chesapeake Avenue that was raised during the repaving portion of the streetscape. All right, moving on to code enforcement, we'll see a little bit of what Rick has to deal with. Yeah, we still have that in North Beach. You can see why we need to have an effective Department of Code Enforcement, and Rick and Donnie have raised that to a very professional level. Thank you, guys. Okay, the financials.
Did you do that, Joanne?
So, I think you had a pretty exhaustive disclosure of our financials earlier, so we won't belabor that point. Joanne has some bullets there that you might be interested in. The town's tax rate last year remained the same. It adopted the constant yield rate. Okay, now that's the laughter. There's a nice segue into some slides of our staff at work. I just want to say, I can't say enough good things about all of the staff that work for North Beach. I mean, they make the council look good. To all of you, just do a wonderful job. There's Bud and Richard and Donnie and Rick and Dawn and Richard and Stacy. Everybody's Donnie building.
Didn't go through some staff.
Oh, okay. For whatever the reason. But thank you all.
They didn't have enough clothes on.
Is that what it is? Okay, moving on to marketing and public relations. Vaughn oversaw the website redesign. We had Megan McGrath. I interviewed her, that she came to North Beach. We're beginning the process so we can notify residents by text of alerts, much more effective than emails. There's some facts about our social media presence. You know, I don't use social media that much myself, but you do. Mike, those are pretty good numbers. Okay, good times. Look at these wonderful children here. These are the rocks, right? You all know the story about the rocks? Yeah, okay. North Beach rocks. And then you see some people who came to the boardwalk to visit the eclipse. And we had a selfie day that was sponsored by MML. That was Bill Heyer there. You see him there? Right there. Looks like Bob Hellier, I'm sorry. But who's he look like? He looks like, and you know what? They responded to that, didn't they, Dawn?
Right, we tweeted, is that the Gordon fisherman taking the city hall selfie in front of town hall in North Beach, Maryland? And then they responded to that and said, I vote yes.
Yeah. Gordon's Fishman responded to our tweet. Okay, next page, the special events. We had, this was from 2017, not 2018. We didn't have that kind of turnout because it was so cold this past week.
Oh, there's no ice in it.
Yeah, right. And then we presented a check to Calvert Hospice. You see people warming themselves on the beach. I think that check was for $2,500.
Yeah.
Okay, next page, an annual, reawakening, if you will, the town, the Comcast Cares Day, when we plant our beds with volunteers and with some professional design experience from Green Street Growers. They're actually at work down here. You can see them in one of the pictures. But, the beds look entirely different this year than they had in previous years, and you can tell that they were, professionally designed. I think they're probably going to do something different this year. A little bit different, yeah. But I don't think anyone could argue with the results. Okay, also special events are farmers market, the classic car cruise in, but just what a great social event every Friday night is in North Beach from May through September. Then our Dragon Boat Festival, we raise money for End Hunger, cooperate with the Chesapeake Church and the End Hunger program. And there you see the Dragon Boat, you see North Beach winning, and there's the trophy. Which, you rode for Chesapeake Beach.
Not this year.
Not this year.
They figured out that a small person in the boat.
Well, anyway, there's a trophy. You can't see it, but there are 5 plaques down there at the bottom. And that one's North Beach, that one's North Beach, that one's North Beach, and that one's North Beach. 4 out of 5. Okay. Next page, concerts on the pavilion, very popular. Boy, I know Motown because of my age. The Winstons are great, really great. And Jane's age, Motown. Special events, like to thank the Hummels, the movies on the beach, the drive-in movies. Very popular. Last year we had a very good special event, North Beach American Film Festival. 3 days of festival showing American independent films.
Are you going to do that again this year? Do what? The Federal Festival?
Also special events, Our 7th annual, next one, Joe. Drink Maryland, used to be Eat, Drink, Go Local. And for the second year, we had the Celebration of the Arts on the same day. Very popular day. We have new sculptures award a place for 1 year. These are rotating awards. It gives an opportunity for local people to showcase their work for a year in our Sunrise Garden. Okay, come along October, we get to the Hound of the Town. Very popular. It's amazing. I look out my window there, see the number of people bringing their pets dressed up. They love it. And then later in the day, the kids get dressed up, the Boo Bash. Into December, or Light Up the Town. This was Northern High School, wasn't it? There's a symphony orchestra playing down there in the lower left.
Did they make that trip?
It's in the spring. It's, I think,
Oh, it's still
Yeah, they were raising money for a trip to Iceland, I think. Okay, next is the annual Pat Carpenter Holiday Parade, and you see, for the first time, they had marching bands, and what a difference that made. Well, they were wonderful to hear. And I saw these dancers right here, they were with the Northern High School marching band. They had Northern High School colors on. I said, boy, those are well-trained girls. How do they do that? Then I find out Paul's wife is responsible for training them at Abigail Studio. These are Abigail students. But I guess some of them go to Northern High School, right?
It's Northern High School prom school, some of them also for that.
Boy, but if you saw that parade, you know what a performance that group put on right there. Okay. And then the cast of characters down below there.
Santa.
And the next page, especially Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, and the kids, always popular. I think Santa Claus has done this 18 years. That's great. Okay, our New Year's Eve party on the pier. That right there is the mayor of Chesapeake Beach, Pat Mahoney. Town's working together. Okay, work in progress now. What's happening? Beach dredge, we know is going to be happening in a month or so. You can see a map of the area that's going to be worked on. Some of you, when the tide is really low, ought to come down and take a look at that. You can see sand all the way out to the riprap. I mean, there's no water in there at all. There's so much sand. As we mentioned before, we will, with the state highway, will be raising Route 261 between 9th Street and the Anne Arundel County line. We hope to get them either in March or April at one of our council meetings to give us a presentation on where they are with their design work on that project. Here you see a proposed location for the new Twin Beach Library. Just an update. The library board will be meeting next week, and I'm told that the expectation is that they will make their decision. That decision will have to be ratified by the Board of County Commissioners. So the decision as to the new location should be made, I think, by sometime during the month of February. And of course the Callis Park renovation up there, which you all saw last week. All right, looking to the future. North Beach is financially in very solid position. The town is ascendant, I believe. But there are, if you look to the long term, there are some issues that the town is going to have to deal with long after this administration and the next 2 or 3 are gone, and that is the rising seawater, sea levels. At some point in time, I would suggest that much of what you see here will be gone. There will be riprap as exists now from 7th to 9th or 10th Street along Atlantic Avenue. Will be along this area here as well. Along here, along here. We'll still have the boardwalk, but I believe that sand will increasingly in the coming 2 or 3 decades be less and less of a factor in North Beach's using it as a tourist destination. Next page. It's more of the same. I foresee riprap here, stone here, all this going to be underwater. Keep going. That's a drone view of our beach right now. Remember that? If you look back 100 years ago, there are postcards and whatnot, you can see how far out that sand went. Went out 2 or 3 times as far as it is right now. Dawn, your family lived down there back then. You remember when that sand went out so far?
Yep.
Yeah, look at it, it's under the pavilion now. All right, also looking to the future, I highlight some locations in town that I believe will be developed, and how they're developed will, to a large extent, define the landscape within town in the coming decades. These 2 lots we're both familiar with at the corner of 3rd and Chesapeake. This is the cars there, but that's the large lot that Mr. Russo owns, where he proposes one day to build a hotel. Next one, please. We'll also have redevelopment. I foresee a time when these 2 locations will be redeveloped. That 7th and Bay Avenue will become, I think, the commercial hub of North Beach. Next one. See likely redevelopment of these locations as well. This is at 5th and Chesapeake. This is for sale, as you know, right now. This is our lot here, which may or may not one day have a structure on it. Next page. And this is the building that exists here. And I'm happy to report that these are plans now for the new fast stop at that location right here. Rick, can you give us an update on the permit process, what you know, what you don't know?
Well, at this point, they're scheduled for the next planning board hearing. We have all the documents in place now before the planning commission. And so after they go there, then we'll move forward.
We should probably see some work this spring.
I would think they were, the guy coming was fairly aggressive in getting the plans and the stormwater management plan done rapidly, so.
Kind of depends on Calvert County, too.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're at 2nd and Chesapeake. And then right across the street, I foresee likely redevelopment of this location. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Jay had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay.
Will they still have a gas station there?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, what they've done to try and make it a little bit quicker process, the gas pumps won't move at all. So there won't be new pumps, the gas pumps won't be dug up, there's no Department of the Environment concerns, it's just gonna be a new building.
The plan is to demolish the existing building. So we'll be without that convenience store for a period of time. And then a new one placed behind it, a little further west. They had looked into keeping this one open while they built the new one, but there just wasn't enough room to do the job that they needed. So that'll create some more space here. They may even put in some more, gas pumps. I don't know.
No gas pumps, but they are, the initial plans have almost 1,000 square foot more green space as opposed to asphalt. So the permeable space that's going to be disturbed will be like 900 square feet less.
Gotcha.
Which is good.
They probably needed that for their stormwater management too. Yes. Okay, down here, you all familiar with this lot? This is the lot at 2nd and Chestnut on Bay Avenue. Vacant lot. Something, obviously someday will be built. That's in the Hollis family right now. Okay, I believe that's it. Next we have, what's the next page? Yeah. Okay, thank you for a great year, and then we have the events for 2018. Yeah. So, I'd like to, thank the council, the staff, especially for making 2017 a great year. I'm sure that the 2018 will do even better. Okay, let's go to council reports. Randy?
Nothing, something coming out. I got it.
Okay, Jane?
Yeah, thank you for everyone for coming. Just to give you an update, I started M&L's legislative committee, and next Wednesday I will be going up to Annapolis to testify to hopefully get our highway user money returned. The bill has never made it to the House or the Senate floor, so no one really knows exactly how they're going to feel. So we're pushing to make that happen this year, so we know what's happening to get that money returned to the municipalities. MML has said, and we voted to only go for our municipal money and not combine with the counties this year for the first time, because our monies are so much less returned than theirs. So keep your fingers crossed that we can make this happen. Thank you for coming.
Paul? Thank you, Jane.
I'd just like to echo the mayor's comments and thank the staff. It's really easy to sit up here and kind of just make comments and vote on stuff, but it's all of you guys that actually put it into action and make all these things possible. So thank you so much for everything you do. The whole town is very lucky to have all of you on staff.
We sure are. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for coming. Really, the cold weather is here, as you can tell. It went away for a couple of days, but please check on your neighbors. Donnie's going around. We still have vents up. We still have neighbors struggling out there that are cold. So just keep an eye. If you know somebody, make a phone call, call me, call somebody. But we just, the cold is here for the next couple of months, and we need to make sure we're protecting our neighbors. Thank you.
I think it's 6 weeks, right? That was the thing with the groundhog show. Yeah, it's great to see everybody here. What a great presentation. Everybody should feel good, and thanks to all the staff. I wanted just to share something really quickly. I'd like to thank our citizen volunteers as well. With the streetscape, this is a banner. So Stacy, thank you for helping to get this going. This is one that the Economic Development Committee designed that'll go on our new poles and arms that'll be hanging. And I think, Deborah, you were a huge part of this. Did Chuck actually, did you say you sketched this? You're part of the sketching of this, so there's a lot of input from everybody, so.
What's the back of it?
It's the same thing, so you have it's both sides. Yeah, so this will hang along Chesapeake is our plan in the spring, so. Just wanted to share that. I know, I thought it came out really nicely, so thanks to the committee. That's it.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out and enjoy the rest of the week.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something real quick. Sean, staff does a great job of having you come. These presentations are really great, but we appreciate having a great mayor to lead us in that. And great council to work with. A lot of stuff happens. Really easy work for great staff like that.
Your bonus will be in your mailbox. Okay, need a motion to adjourn and to enter executive session to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.